declare best. It's Friday here on The Story, and this weekend, we're springing forward with daylight saving time, losing an hour. But some Oregon lawmakers are back with their bill to ditch the switch and go back to permanent standard time. Plus, a major West Coast city is considering a proposal to jail homeless people who repeatedly refuse shelter. We'll get into the details. But first, a Clark County superintendent in a school district there is publicly defying the state of Washington over a policy around gender and pronouns in schools. It's our big story tonight. La Center has just 3 public schools, an elementary, middle, and high school, totaling around 1,700 students. Last week, the state ordered the superintendent to change a policy that bars teachers and staff from asking students which pronouns they want to use in school. The policy also stated that any transgender student or any student exploring their gender would be reported to their parents. The state says that's discrimination against trans students, but the superintendent, Peter Rosenkranz, refuses to change the policy. Now, this all started in the fall of 2022. A teacher sent out a survey to her classes, and one of the questions asked them their pronouns. A parent complained to the school board, calling it, quote, pronoun garbage. So the superintendent wrote a new policy banning teachers from asking about pronouns and ordering school staff to report gender changes to parents. The policy set off months of debate at the school board, where we were there the spring of 2023.
May we truly discern the truth, and I must say this again, let there be light. There's only male and female. God bless each of you.
How about instead of harmful transphobic policies, you all stop obsessing about the genitals in kids' pants, because that's all you're doing, and start focusing on policies that promote inclusion and safety and support.
Some of the teachers complained to the state, and 2 years of investigations followed. The policy itself says, quote, it's not the role of the schools to facilitate questioning gender identity or to facilitate gender transitioning. It says that transgender students may share their name or pronoun changes on their own with their teachers, but teachers are not allowed to ask about it. It adds, quote, the school should also be transparent with parents or guardians of children who question their gender identity so that the parents or guardians may provide appropriate support for their children. Now, we talked this week with Superintendent Rosenkranz. He says conversations about gender belong with students' families, not at school. And he says the controversy over the policy is no surprise.
I anticipated it given the political climate. And the response is just simply, from my end, is I work with families. I collaborate with families. I don't hide things from families. It's their children, not mine. And by the way, could you please read a book with your child?
LGBTQ advocates in La Center started fighting the policy right away, saying it puts transgender kids in danger. Here's Emily Hancock, a board member of Clark County Pride and a graduate of La Center schools.
We got involved trying to, at first, just educate the school district and we brought so many different experts, nurses, people who are experts in the field to try to explain to them why the policy was so dangerous. And our school district made it very clear that they did not care, that they were putting their students at risk of violence and homelessness and increased rates of suicide and mental health issues. They didn't care.
Rosenkranz says he disagrees with the assumption that parents are dangerous to transgender children. His policy states before a school employee contacts a student's parents or guardians, the school would attempt to consult with the students about preferences regarding family involvement and consider whether safety concerns are present for the student. But it says the student's stated preferences are not the sole factor to consider. The superintendent says when it comes to danger for students, he'll report it if he hears about it.
I have a system for that at Child Protective Services. I'm a mandatory reporter by law, and if I, in my regular course of work, find that there are indicators that would say a family is abusive towards their children, I report, and they take care of that. One of the challenge is this policy blanket assumes parents are dangerous. And I have to determine whether they're dangerous or not. And so are they dangerous because they disagree with they disagree with something?
He says that in most cases, he thinks families would be supportive in helping their kids navigate their gender identity and that parents should be included in the conversation. But data does not back that up. A 2022 study from the nonprofit Trevor Project, an organization that does research and advocacy for LGBTQ youth, shows fewer than 1 in 3 trans youth find their home to be accepting. But more than half found school to be an accepting place. Hancock says the district should keep that in mind.
If there is a trans child who has not come out to their family, there is a reason. That child knows best how safe they are coming out to their family. Superintendent Rosenkranz, the administration, they see the child at school, but they don't know what things are like at home. And simply outing the child to their family and then calling CPS, that's not good enough. It is not good enough to put a child in danger and then retroactively call someone to help just in case something goes wrong.
The Washington State Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, or OSPI, says the policy violates state law. And Washington's Gender Inclusive Schools policy specifically says school staff should not disclose information that may reveal a student's transgender status to others, including parents and other school staff, unless legally required to do so or unless the student has authorized such disclosure. In their investigation into La Center's policy, they found that the directive was rooted in negative or even hostile perceptions of gender expansive identities, and the purpose was discriminatory. OSPI is giving Rosenkranz 45 days to change the policy, but again, this week he told us he won't. He's appealing the ruling and says the school district's attorney and the school board stand with him. We'll let you know what happens. But in the meantime, what is going through your mind after hearing this story? Do you agree with the superintendent or do you side with the state? Email us at thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090, or hit us up on social media. Turning now to the homeless crisis and our continued coverage of the different ways cities across the West Coast are handling it. The mayor of San Jose, California, is proposing sending homeless people to jail if they repeatedly refuse shelter. It's a controversial move that's been talked about here in Portland too, and that's why we think this article from the Los Angeles Times is worth your time. On Thursday, San Jose's Mayor Matt Mahan introduced the ordinance. The punishment for refusing will get stronger each time, starting with a written warning and ending in possible arrest and jail time after 3 refusals. As reported by the LA Times, the mayor believes, quote, homelessness can't be a choice. His proposal still needs to be approved by city council. But San Jose's homeless population is similar to here in Multnomah County, at least by official numbers. The LA Times reports San Jose has more than 6,000 homeless people and has invested heavily in housing and shelters, with more than 2,000 units now available or in development. The mayor's idea being that there is now shelter options. Those on the streets should be held accountable if they refuse. Roughly 1/3 of the people who have been offered shelter in San Jose say no. For a quick comparison, Multnomah County has more than 3,000 overnight shelter beds and more than 6,000 homeless people, according to a recent count that many believe is a vast undercount. We're told there are often empty shelter beds here, even during the most severe weather. And the city's camping ban applies to public property and the public right-of-way, like sidewalks. According to Portland City Code, and much like San Jose's proposal, if someone refuses the offer of available shelter, they could face a fine, jail time, or both. Now, back in July, when this first went into effect, I actually found the first person arrested under Portland's camping ban. There he was right there. He didn't spend time behind bars for violating the ban, though, because once officers brought him to the Multnomah County Jail for refusing the offer of shelter multiple times, the county sheriff refused to book him because she did not want to criminalize someone for being homeless. That, of course, lit a fuse of controversy between former Mayor Ted Wheeler and the sheriff's office. And now we have a new mayor, Keith Wilson, who has not aggressively talked about enforcing this ban. But amid his efforts to open more shelter beds, he has mentioned how he wants to stop camp removals and not use police officers to enforce camping rules. We'll certainly keep an eye on those efforts here at home, and also on what San Jose City Council decides in regards to the mayor's proposal there. An update out of Clackamas County now, where Commissioner Melissa Fireside has resigned. It comes just 2 days after she was indicted on 8 felony counts, including theft, identity theft, and forgery, targeting an 83-year-old man and a state lawmaker, totaling tens of thousands of dollars. Fireside has pleaded not guilty. Since the indictment, calls for her to resign were swift from both the public and fellow commissioners, and that happened earlier today. We asked the county for Fireside's resignation letter, and it was short and sweet. Fireside writing a one-sentence email to County Chair Craig Roberts, quote, "I hereby resign as Clackamas County Commissioner effective today." She didn't bother to sign her name, but did leave the default "sent from my iPhone," just your casual iPhone resignation email. Chair Roberts has asked the county administrator to begin the process of filling Fireside's seat on the commission, including the creation of a web page to outline the next steps. Well, let's head east now to Hood River County, where after 2 days, crews pulled part of a car out of the Columbia River believed to be connected to a 1958 cold case. The theory here is that the car belonged to a Portland family who went missing on a trip to the gorge. Today, the chassis and engine came above water for the first time in nearly 70 years, and the engine is key, because it could have numbers on it to confirm whether or not the car belongs to the Martin family who vanished. The Hood River Sheriff says the rest of the vehicle is simply crumbled far below the surface, and crews likely will not return to dig up anything else. The hope is that experts can begin processing evidence as soon as tonight. Daylight saving time returns this weekend. Clocks move forward early Sunday morning from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. and we lose an hour of sleep. I know, it's tough. A few weeks ago, a viewer named Dixie emailed us, whatever happened to doing away with daylight saving time? It sounded like it was going to happen and doing away with it in Oregon, but now you hear nothing about it. Well, Dixie, for years, Oregon lawmakers have tried to ditch the switch, permanently going to standard time, and came somewhat close last year. This legislative session, they're giving it another go. Ashley Grams has the story.
I believe it is time to put an end to the practice of daylight savings time.
2 Oregon Senate bills aim to make standard time permanent and stop the time change if our neighbors in Washington and California do the same.
This is a twice-yearly task that everyone despises.
Oregon Senator Dick Anderson is sponsoring one of them.
Personally, I would drastically prefer to change my clocks forever than to get rid of daylight savings time.
Public testimony during a hearing for the bill on Tuesday proved controversial.
But the only way to prevent the long-lasting damage being done to your children and to your community is by supporting permanent standard time.
Senator Kim Thatcher is sponsoring the other bill. After failing last year, she's back again, trying to accomplish the same thing and ditch the switch through permanent standard time. But this go-around, Thatcher's leaving the option open for permanent daylight saving time if the federal government approves.
I wanted to preserve that hope that some people have that we would not give up on permanent daylight saving time.
But in both cases, ending the hour shift twice a year.
Ashley, I think it's important to highlight the differences people will see.
KGW meteorologist Rod Hill took a look at the numbers.
I've just highlighted December 1st, March 1st, June 1st, September 1st. If we switch to standard time year-round, something we're not currently on in June, but if we were, June 1st sunrise is 4:25 in the morning. So you're sleeping, it's starting to brighten up as early as 4 a.m., and then the sun goes down before 8.
Some commenters stress the fact that they didn't want to lose out on that evening sunshine.
Please allow Oregonians to continue to enjoy those glorious summer evenings before the dark, rainy tunnel of winter closes in again.
But others feel standard time is healthier.
Permanent standard time is best aligned with the natural circadian rhythms of our own brains and bodies.
Ashley Grams, KGW News.
Again, even if Oregon lawmakers pass one of these bills and if Governor Kotek signed it, the switch to permanent standard time would not take effect unless Washington and California do it as well. And it's been a non-starter in Washington. There was a bill in Olympia this session that didn't even make it out of committee. And speaking of daylight saving time, after the break, we'll take you to a clock shop in Beaverton, where the owners are expecting a busy weekend, helping people whose clocks, antique or otherwise, don't automatically change early Sunday morning. And later, to Lake Oswego, where a judge's ruling in a long-running lawsuit means there are changes when it comes to the public being able to access Oswego Lake. All that and more when the story returns. Well, daylight saving time is this weekend, early Sunday morning, when we lose an hour between 2 and 3 a.m. And while most of our devices will automatically change the time for us, that's not the case for old school clocks. Photojournalist Alyssa Taylor shows us the unique challenges that one small business faces twice a year when we change the clocks.
My name is Dan Barkley, and I'm a partial owner of Covenant Clock Restorations located here in Beaverton, Oregon. And we're horologists here. That means that we study timepieces and we study time and what that is.
My name is Steve Usher, and I'm a clockmaker at Covenant Clocks. I'm a master clockmaker, and I've been doing it for about 40 years.
We associate daylight saving time to Benjamin Franklin. I believe he came up with the proverb, early to bed, early to rise makes man healthy, wealthy, and wise. But it's daylight saving time, not daylight savings time. We're really actually not saving anything. I don't know if that's effective today anymore. And if we want to do away with it, it's probably going to take an act of Congress.
I wish they would get rid of that, but since we have it, that we have to deal with it.
It's this roller coaster, this really slow roller coaster that comes around twice a year. I look at it as the day of reckoning because it's something that we're trying to avoid, but we can't avoid it. There's a lot of clocks that we deal with here, so we have to adjust them.
And we get a lot of calls, you know, right afterwards because some of our customers don't know what to do with their antique clocks.
And this is what happens is our phones blow up, and they're going to blow up for a week.
And there are safeguards you can do, like when you spring forward, you're going to take the minute hand, you go forward and let it play, and then go forward again to the next half hour and let it play. That way it keeps you out of trouble. Now when we fall back, it's a little bit more difficult. We get more calls there because people tend to think that some clocks don't go backwards. But to be safe, the best thing to do is stop the clock for an hour. We're a little small business in the days of Amazon and Walmarts and everything, and it's nice to have a small business where people feel like they're being taken care of as individuals.
Each and every single one of these clocks has a story behind them. Can you just imagine what it could tell us if the clocks could talk?
The process of restoring them is fulfilling, and the outcome is for the customer.
Well, coming up next on the story, it's a case in Lake Oswego that's taken all kinds of time, dragging on for more than a decade, at one point ending up in front of the Oregon Supreme Court. Why a judge's decision this week could mark the end of a feud over public access to Oswego Lake. That's when the story returns. Back to Clackamas County now, where for decades, access to Oswego Lake has been a privilege reserved for an exclusive group of people who pay to help maintain the lake. But access to the water is no longer restricted after a judge ruled this week everyone has the right to use it. Catherine Cook has the update.
As the sun set over Oswego Lake Wednesday, it felt like the dawning of a new day for Todd Prager.
I feel really good. Our legal team feels really good.
This week, a Clackamas County judge issued a ruling on a long-standing court battle over Oswego Lake. It ordered the city to immediately stop enforcing an ordinance that barred public access to the lake through Millennium Plaza Park. For Prager,
I didn't think it would take this long.
And another resident, it's a major milestone. They sued the city for public lake access back in 2012.
It just didn't seem really right to me, so I looked into it and discovered that actually we do have the right to access these waterways, so just kind of snowballed from there.
The case went all the way to the Oregon Supreme Court before it was kicked back down to the county. The Lake Oswego Corporation, a consortium of lakeside property owners that manages the lake, joined the case on the city side.
It's pretty disappointing that city government that's supposed to represent the entire city would be so kind of tied with a smaller group of people that have these special interests.
Under the judgment, the city has 30 days to remove signs like this one from Millennium Plaza, restricting access to Oswego Lake. They have 120 days to remove these boulders and metal reeds that physically restrict access. In a statement to KGW, the Lake Oswego Corporation objected to the order, noting they, along with the city, are considering an appeal. They said in part, the result is an oversimplified judgment that purports to allow public access to the lake from Millennium Plaza Park only, but does not give the city adequate time or direction to create safe and compliant access. They also said the order creates a serious risk of future litigation on lake access issues that should have been resolved by this case. Under the ruling, the city can keep the ordinance in place for 2 other downtown parks. Jeff Harris has easement rights to Oswego Lake and read the ruling.
It's a little mixed because I understand where they're coming from.
He said he and others with lake access pay quite a bit for the privilege and that the fees help maintain the lake. He's not sure if or how the ruling would change that, but his biggest concern is safety.
Well, my hope is that there would be some kind of education for people that want to use the lake. So that we're all on the same page. I've seen behavior out here that is not safe. There are a lot of rules that we have to obey on the lake to keep everybody safe.
Prager says he'll certainly obey the rules this weekend when he hits the lake.
It's supposed to be a nice day, almost 60 degrees and sunny, so that's the plan.
In Lake Oswego, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Timbers 360 is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. And if you ever miss an episode of The Story at 6:30, we re-air the episode at 8:30 and 10:30 p.m. over on our TV app, KGW+. You can download the free app right now. It's on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you right back here Monday night at 6:30.